Fairview, Franklin, Houston Springs.
It started out innocently enough as rain. But unlike most storms, this time the rain didn't stop. Streams became raging rivers, and the rivers themselves became instruments of destruction. Overwhelming dams, ripping out roads, invading homes, taking lives. For 2 days, record storms drenched West and Middle Tennessee. In some places, the downpour surpassed what Hurricane Katrina rained down on the Gulf Coast. Throughout a 7-county corridor stretching from Benton County along the Tennessee River to Davidson County, an average of 14 to 15 inches of rain fell. That's 420 billion gallons of water. More water than flows out of the Mississippi River in a day. Today, the floodwaters rage no more. What remains is hard to believe.
If you look high up in that tree, you'll see just how high the water came through.
TDEC's Jane Polanski and TWRA fisheries biologist Frank Fiss are getting a close look at some of the damage to the Harpeth River in Cheatham County.
I've never seen so many huge trees, mature trees. I mean, they're just littering the bank right now.
Much of the destruction can be found in the floodplain. Often reaching well away from the main channel, this hidden part of the river lies dormant until heavy rains transform it into an active stream.
It came through Buffalo Gap. That was the original route of the river years and years and years ago. Beside Harpeth High School, went all across Highway 249, took out 249, took out about 3 homes with it.
We're gonna stay on this side of the current.
While creatures living outside the river channel can move away from rising water, the aquatic wildlife that make a home in its flowing waters have nowhere to go.
You've got fish that live, that typically like to swim around in the open water. Those fish are going to seek some cover. They're not going to want to hang out in that really high velocity water. But you've got a lot of fish that live on the bottom and, you know, might spend most of their day kind of behind a rock anyway. Those fish, as long as that rock they're behind isn't moving, they're in good shape.
But if the current is strong enough, it does move rocks. Lots of rocks.
This gravel bar we're standing on right now did not exist. Today we're looking at probably 2 to 3 feet of gravel. Water came up over the road, over the guardrail, hit the bluff, and as it did, it was carrying so much with it that it would just drop things along the way, and apparently all this rock and everything was just deposited here.
It's a lethal transition for some fish.
It's not like the water's so murky that it kills them. It's usually just a physical loss of habitat and they got nowhere to be. They're trying and trying to be somewhere else, swimming and swimming to exhaustion, and then it's over. It'd be a fate of a lot of those fish that do die.
There we go.
It's a little smallmouth there. That would be.
While some are lost, many more survive. Today's sampling shows a good number of healthy young fish.
Even though you might see a loss of individuals in 1 year, by the next year or 2, those individuals will have spawned and it'll kind of be back to normal, if you will.
The biggest threat to life in the river comes from this: exposed riverbanks that allow sediment to wash into the stream. While the floodwaters overwhelmed large sections of the river's riparian zone, the vegetated buffer along the stream banks, many of the downed trees will actually help stabilize the bank while new growth takes hold. The greatest damage can be found where people have made the riparian zone too narrow or stripped it away completely.
Upstream here, you'll see that there's a narrow belt of riparian vegetation. It's not a great riparian zone, but it is, you know, a row or 2 of trees, and that was all it took there to hold that bank during the last flood and subsequent floods as well. And then if you look just downstream, you can see a dramatic difference. And the major difference here is simply land management and riparian management. Trees here, no trees there. Accelerated bank erosion here. We see landowners in a lot of cases losing 10, 12, 20 feet of bank in a year. But you have to think about how many thousands of tons of soil that's being dumped into the river and the harm that causes to the system.
This is the result of improper stream bank management. By contrast, if we look across the river to this bank has been stabilized using bioengineering, planting native grasses and trees to hold the bank together, protecting it and the river.
What was here before was probably a 10-foot high vertical eroding bank. We came in, resloped the bank, live staked it with black willow, silky dogwood. It's a good example of how you can use living materials, plants, to stabilize a riverbank. You know, not too long ago, the typical approach would have been to riprap or to armor this entire bank. And this shows that there are better alternatives.
Better, because it restores the natural function of the river, where stream bank erosion is hardly measurable.
The vegetation right along the bank stabilizes the banks. But beyond that, riparian buffers filter the water. They slow the velocity. It helps sediment drop out. They really act as scrubbers for the river, and they help to clean the river.
And we have to think about how we're going to go about managing what we have now.
What we have now is a river in recovery. While the full impact of the flood may not be known for some time, the Harpeth has weathered the storm. Life goes on.
It's amazing how much growth has taken place since the flood. The first 2 weeks really was pretty indescribable. It almost brought a tear to your eye every time you look at it. And right now, it's lush, it's green, it looks really good, and we'll have to just wait out and see what the fall and the winter bring. Mother Nature has a way of curing her own ills.
I'm Ken Tucker on Tennessee's Wild Side.